What is up, everybody? Today I'm going to be teaching you about erythrocytes and the cardiovascular system. Let's get it. Alright, so your erythrocytes here, your red blood cells. That there is my artist rendition of an erythrocyte. So your red blood cells make up 45% of your blood. The other parts are about 1%, less than 1% white blood cells, and the other 55% is plasma. But what red blood cells do is they carry oxygen that you get from your lungs. So we got your little O2 over here. Oxygen from your lungs, carry it through your blood, or through your arteries, your circulatory system, all that stuff. They carry it to your tissues, where the red blood cells distribute the O2 to the tissues, and they pick up your CO2 from those tissues, carry them back up through the veins, up through your heart. They go out your lungs when you breathe, and that's how circulatory system works, how your blood works, or what your erythrocytes do exactly. Your erythrocytes, they have a very strange shape. They're not your typical cell. You know, your typical cell is going to be big. It's going to have all your organelles in it. It's going to have a nucleus, all that stuff. Your erythrocytes, what they have, they are just this little tiny cell here. They have what is called a biconcave shape, meaning that kind of like big on the edges here and kind of caves in a little bit. A little bit of cave in there. You see what happened? What that does is it increases the erythrocytes' surface area, allowing them to better carry gases through the body. Cat, get out of here. Anyway, sorry about that. Cat wanted to join in. But, so, carries the gases through the body. The increased surface area allows for better carrying of the gases. Erythrocytes don't have any organelles in them, which means they have rather short lifespans, only about 40 days-ish. But during that lifespan, they carry, their sole purpose is to carry gas, oxygen to the tissues, get CO2 out of the body, and they just keep doing that over and over and over. Alright, so now that we have covered erythrocytes, we know what erythrocytes do. Your red blood cells, they carry your oxygen to your tissues, take the CO2 out of your tissues, get rid of them. We're going to learn how they do that, what system they do that through, and that is your cardiovascular system, which in reality, basically a college student. Alright, so this here is very basic drawing of your cardiovascular system. You got your heart, your lungs, and this is the rest of your arteries, your veins, your capillaries. Basically the rest of your cardiovascular system that isn't your heart and your lungs. So, for our purposes today, we're going to be starting our little journey through the cardiovascular system in the right atrium, where the blood is just returning from its trip through the cardiovascular system. It doesn't have a lot of oxygen in it. It's carrying a bunch of CO2. Really, it's going to be of no use to go back through the body right now. So, blood starts in the right atrium. This whole process actually is very, very similar to a college student trying to go out on Friday night. So, follow me here. So, early on a Friday night, you know, you're a little college student here. You're chilling right here in your house, your dorm, your apartment, probably your parents' basement because you have no money, you're a college student. And sitting there, and you want to go out on a Friday night, but you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go. You're really of no use to anyone. That's you in your house. That's the blood starting in the right atrium. Alright, so blood's chilling up here in the right atrium right now. Doesn't have oxygen in it, it's a bunch of CO2, not doing anything. So, moves down into the right ventricle here. The right ventricle is going to be the part of the heart that is going to pump the blood up through the pulmonary artery, take it to the lungs, take it to the lungs up here, where it's going to dump out all that CO2 it's carrying, pick up a bunch of oxygen from the lungs, and be ready to start heading back to the heart to go through the circulatory system, your cardiovascular system, make everything function. And so, your right ventricle here, that is going to be you, the college student up here, going to your parents and being like, hey, Mom, Dad, can I get some money to go out tonight? And they're going to give you that look that parents give you that basically says, hell no, I'm paying for your college, forget about it. But then they'll very politely say, and remind you, hey, you know what? You have a job. It pays you money. Go get some of your own. That is you heading to the bank to get some money. You get your money, you come back to the house. That's the blood leaving the right ventricle, going to the lungs, dumping out all its CO2, picking up a bunch of oxygen. So, Blood starts coming back from the lungs, it comes back through the pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins carry it back right here to your left atrium. Now, the left atrium is going to take all that oxygenated blood, it's going to kind of hold it there, and eventually it's going to push it into the left ventricle. Now, the left ventricle is the part of the heart that sends the blood back out into the cardiovascular system to distribute all the stuff. We'll get to that in a little bit. Right atrium here is basically you, the college student, coming home from the bank. You're the college student coming home from the bank. You have yourself lots of money. You're on top of the world. Basically, you're the coolest dude alive. You're just balling. You're ready to go. You're ready to go out of town. But you can't leave just quite yet. That is where the left ventricle comes into play. So, left ventricle here, it's going to get the blood that comes back from the lungs, all oxygenated, ready to go. Blood comes back from the lungs, hits up the right atrium. It's going to, or not the right atrium, my bad, the left atrium. We'll then go into the left ventricle, where the left ventricle is going to be like, alright, ready to go. Left ventricle is a strong part of the heart, pumps all that oxygenated blood back out in the body through the aorta artery, sends it along your veins, your arteries, your capillaries, distributes all that oxygen, all that good stuff, to all your muscle tissues, your other tissues, all that stuff, picks up that CO2, carries it back to your body. That, the left ventricle, is going to be you, the college student here, hopping in your good old car. With all your money, you're ready to go, ready to hit up the town tonight. Left ventricle pushes that blood out through the arteries, where it goes, distributes some oxygen in the capillaries to the different tissues of the body, picks up the CO2, carries it back. That's you, the college student, hit up the town, all your money, you're partying, you're ready to go, maybe go hit on some girls, but not really because, of course, you're going to get rejected. Maybe have a few drinks of choice, and not endorsing anything here, but as it is college, we all know what that drink of choice will be. But again, not endorsing anything here. So, you go through the circulatory system, the cardiovascular system, all that good stuff. Come back through your veins to your heart, where you will re-enter the right... where you will, again, re-enter the right atrium, start the whole process over again, and eventually use the college student on your Friday night out on the town. Will return from your partying, make it back to your house, eventually, hopefully, safe and sound, back in the same position you started this whole wonderful process at. So, quick little summary of what we covered here today. So, start off with your erythrocytes, or your red blood cells. Their whole purpose in life, carry gas, carry oxygen to your tissues, get CO2 out of your body. Great. They work in your cardiovascular system, which contains your heart, your lungs, and your circulatory system, your veins, your arteries, your capillaries, all that good stuff. So, blood, unoxygenated, doing no good for anybody, is going to start right here in your right atrium. Your right atrium will then push the blood into your right ventricle. Your right ventricle will then push the blood, unoxygenated, mind you, through your pulmonary arteries up into your lungs, where the blood will then pick up a bunch of oxygen to take back to your body and dump out the CO2 that the body doesn't want. Then coming back along the pulmonary veins, the blood, now oxygenated, will enter the left atrium right here. Left atrium will push it into the left ventricle. The left ventricle has a job pushing the blood back out through the aorta artery, out into your tissues to distribute the oxygen it picked up back up here in the lungs. So it goes through your arteries, goes to your capillaries, distributes all that oxygen it picked up, picks up the CO2 that's chilling in those tissues, not doing you any good, carries it back up here to the right atrium to start the process all over again.